Ruby clutched the envelope to her chest, her hands trembling. Inside, proof of years of financial manipulation that could destroy the Miller empire. On the other side of the office's oak door, her father Gerald's voice boomed on the phone, discussing yet another hostile takeover. "You're not going in there." Patricia, her stepmother, blocked her path. "Whatever you think you've found, you're wrong." Ruby straightened her shoulders. 15 years of being controlled by the family's money ended today. "Get out of my way." Ruby Miller stared at the documents in her hands, her heart pounding against her chest. 15 years of financial manipulation exposed on letterhead and bank statements. The hallway of the Miller mansion seemed to suffocate her. Each portrait on the wall a reminder of her father's absolute control. "You're not going into that office." Patricia, her stepmother, appeared like an elegant shadow, her expensive perfume filling the air. "Whatever Thomas Wright put in your head, stop it now." Her mentor's name made Ruby freeze. How did Patricia know? The hum of the air conditioning seemed deafening. "So you were spying on me." Her nails dug into her palms. "Of course. Money buys everything, doesn't it? Even privacy. Don't be naive." Patricia adjusted her diamond bracelet. A reconciliation gift after her last attempt to question the family finances. "Your father built all of this for you." Ruby's laugh came out bitter. "For me? He stole my inheritance." Every cent Mom left turned into chains. The memory flashed in her mind. 12-year-old her, crying in the same hallway after her mother's funeral, while Gerald coldly explained how he would manage her trust fund. A week later, Patricia moved into the mansion, bringing calculated smiles and maternal advice on how a Miller heiress should behave. The office door opened with a familiar creak. The aroma of leather and whiskey escaped along with Gerald Miller's booming voice. "Come in, Ruby." He wasn't yelling. He never needed to. His power had always been in his controlled tone, in the way each word carried the weight of unspoken consequences. Her legs trembled as she crossed the threshold. The office was a museum to the Millers' power. Photos with politicians, acquisition certificates, each item carefully positioned to intimidate. Gerald occupied his Italian leather chair, the last rays of sunlight through the French window turning his gray hair to silver. Thomas Wright. He pronounced the name like a sentence. Interesting choice of mentor. Ruby felt bile rising in her throat. The folder in her hands weighed a ton. "How did you find out?" "I built an empire, dear." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Did you really think I don't monitor every person who tries to touch what's mine? I'm not yours." The words came out like an explosion. Ruby threw the documents on the mahogany desk, scattering 15 years of meticulously documented fraud. "And this? Is it yours too?" Gerald's face hardened, a vein throbbing in his temple. Patricia gasped at the sight of the papers, her face losing color. "Every offshore account." Ruby pointed at the documents, her voice gaining strength. "Every suspicious transfer. The forged documents from Mom's inheritance. Everything. You don't understand." Patricia began, but Gerald silenced her with a look. "What do you want, Ruby?" His voice was ice. "Money. Power. All of this can be yours. Just follow the family rules." Ruby felt something break inside her. Years of fear turning into cold fury. "Rules." Her voice trembled. "Like the rules you used to control every aspect of my life? To make me beg for an allowance while you were siphoning millions from my inheritance." Gerald stood up slowly, his shadow engulfing the room. "Be careful, Ruby. You don't want me as an enemy." "No, Dad." She straightened her shoulders, thinking of Thomas, of her mother, of every moment of financial humiliation. "You don't want me as an enemy. Because tomorrow, if you don't sign the transfer of what is rightfully mine, these documents go to the SEC." The silence that followed was absolute. For the first time in her life, Ruby saw fear in her father's eyes, and felt nothing. The silence in the office was broken by the sound of heavy footsteps. Adam Miller, Ruby's older brother, burst through the door, his Armani suit as impeccable as his loyalty to their father. "What is she doing here?" His dark eyes flashed with anger. "I thought we agreed to keep her away from board meetings." Ruby felt her stomach churn. So that was it. While she was gathering evidence, they were planning to remove her completely from the business. Gerald visibly relaxed at his son's arrival. Ruby has decided to present us with some concerns about the family's financial management. Adam picked up one of the documents from the table, his face hardening. You don't understand what you're getting into, little sister. Don't call me that. Ruby clenched her fists, remembering Thomas's advice. Stand your ground, they only have the power you allow. You stole my inheritance. You manipulated everything since Mom died. We protected you. Adam slammed his hand on the table. You were a spoiled brat who would have wasted millions. I was 12 years old. Ruby's voice cracked. And now I'm 27, with a degree in finance and enough evidence to destroy this family. Patricia slid next to Gerald, her red nails clutching his arm. Dear, maybe we should. Shut up. Gerald roared, making her recoil, his control finally breaking. 15 years building this. 15 years protecting you from yourself, and this is how you thank me. Ruby felt tears burning, but she didn't let them fall. Protecting? You made me beg for money for college while you were siphoning millions. You humiliated me at every family dinner. You turned every penny into a weapon. You didn't deserve that money. Adam stepped forward, his finger pointed at her face. Look at you. Running to strangers, betraying your own family. Thomas isn't a stranger. Ruby straightened her shoulders. He's the only person who showed me the truth about you. Gerald rose slowly, his eyes as cold as steel. Thomas Wright. The same Thomas who just sold his company to our biggest competitor. The floor seemed to disappear beneath Ruby's feet. What? Oh dear. Patricia smiled, venomous. Did you really think he was helping you out of kindness? He needed inside information. And you, so desperate for a mentor, gave him everything. No. Ruby felt the air leaving her lungs. Thomas's kind words, the documents he helped her find, it all looked different now. The only family you have is in this room. Gerald circled the table, his voice softening. We've always protected you, even from your own decisions. Ruby backed away until she felt the cold wall at her back. Memories flooded her mind. Thomas reviewing documents late into the night, his specific interest in certain transactions, questions that now seemed too calculated. I'll give you a choice. Gerald stopped in front of her. Hand over all copies of those documents, return to your position on the board, and forget this nonsense. Or, Ruby barely recognized her own voice. Or you'll find out that Thomas isn't the only one who knows how to play this game. Gerald's smile was icy. Choose wisely, daughter. Family is all we have. Ruby trembled as she drove through the storm, the windshield wipers barely keeping up with the torrential rain. Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel as Thomas's words echoed in her mind. Sorry, Ruby. Business is business. The call from 10 minutes ago had confirmed everything. Thomas Wright, her mentor, her safe harbor for the past 2 years, had used her trust as a bargaining chip. Her cell phone rang again, Adam, for the 10th time. Ruby turned off the device, swallowing the lump in her throat. The city lights blurred by the rain seemed to mock her naivete. The penthouse was dark when she arrived. Throwing the keys onto the marble counter, Ruby allowed her legs to give way. She slid to the floor, violent sobs shaking her body. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Her fist hit the cold floor, the physical pain a welcome relief. A brown envelope caught her eye under the door, late mail. With trembling hands, Ruby opened it. Photos of her and Thomas fell to the floor. Secret meetings, documents being exchanged. Every moment she thought she was fighting her family had been carefully documented. A note accompanied the images, Patricia's elegant handwriting instantly recognizable. Dear, did you really think you could win this game? The landline rang, making her jump. The answering machine picked up the message. Ruby, it's Sarah from compliance. Her colleague's voice trembled. There's been a complaint. They're saying you leaked confidential information to Wright Corporation, Ruby. They have proof. I'm sorry. The air left her lungs. In a matter of hours, her family had not only destroyed her trust in Thomas, but also her professional reputation. Ruby staggered to her home office, opening the false drawer that Thomas had helped her install. The original documents were still there, along with a flash drive containing all the digital evidence. Family is all we have. Gerald's voice echoed in her mind. Her cell phone vibrated with a message, an unknown number. When she opened it, her hands trembled. "Ms. Miller, this is Angela Chun from the SEC. We need to talk about some suspicious transactions involving Miller Enterprises." Ruby let out a hysterical laugh. Of course, her family had not only cornered her, but ensured she was the only visible target for the authorities. The intercom buzzed. The doorman's voice sounded nervous. "Ms. Miller, your brother is here. Should I?" "No." Ruby cut off the communication, her brain working frantically. She had minutes at most before Adam arrived. Her brother had never been one to respect boundaries, especially in family emergencies. With nimble fingers, Ruby typed a code on her laptop, a password that Thomas never knew she had. The screen lit up with dozens of files, transactions, emails, recordings. Her real insurance policy. "Family is all we have." Gerald's voice mocked in her mind. "No," Ruby murmured, starting the file transfer. "Family is what we choose to be." The sound of a key in the lock made her freeze. Adam. She had forgotten that he still had the emergency copy. The screen showed 67% complete. Adam burst into the apartment as the progress bar hit 72%. Ruby quickly minimized the screen, her heart nearly jumping out of her chest. "Game's over." He crossed the room like a predator. "Dad's furious. Get out of here." Ruby positioned herself between him and the computer. 83%. Adam smiled, that smile she had known since childhood. The same one he gave before telling Gerald about her mischief. "Don't be an idiot, Ruby. Thomas has already confessed everything. The SEC is coming after you, not us." He adjusted his gold watch, a gift from Gerald for his exceptional work at the company. "But we can fix this. Family protects family." 89%. "Like you protected Mom?" The words escaped before she could contain them. "Did you also say you were protecting her when you forced the sale of her shares?" Adam's smile faltered. "You don't know what you're talking about." 92%. "Yes, I do." Ruby straightened her shoulders. "I found her letters, Adam. The emails. You didn't just steal my inheritance. You destroyed her first." 96%. Adam stepped forward, his mask of civility falling. "You're just like her. Weak. Emotional. Incapable of understanding that sometimes sacrifices are necessary." 99%. "No, Adam." Ruby smiled as the computer emitted a soft ping. "I'm much worse." With a swift movement, she pressed enter. Hundreds of emails fired off simultaneously to the SEC, FBI, and major newspapers across the country. "What have you done?" Adam rushed to the computer, but it was too late. "I proved that sacrifice was necessary." Ruby grabbed her bag already packed. "Tell Dad that now he'll understand what it's like to lose everything." Adam's phone began to ring frantically. On the screen, headlines began to appear. Miller Empire. Decades of fraud exposed. Financial scandal rocks Wall Street. "You." Adam grabbed her arm hard enough to hurt. "You little." "Let her go." A firm voice cut through the air. In the doorway, Margaret Chun, chief investigator for the SEC, was accompanied by 2 federal agents. "Adam Miller?" She showed her badge. "We have some questions about certain transactions at Miller Enterprises." Ruby gently pulled free from her brother's grip. "You know, Adam, I learned something from you. Family really does protect family." She walked over to Margaret. "That's why I sent everything. To protect Mom's legacy." As the agents read Adam his rights, Ruby grabbed one last photo from the wall, her and her mother, years before everything fell apart. "Is it over?" Margaret asked softly. "No." Ruby put the photo in her bag. "It's just beginning." The coverage of the Miller trial dominated every channel. Ruby watched from the courthouse waiting room, her stomach churning as the headlines flashed. Gerald Miller faces 30 years. Financial empire built on fraud. Adam Miller accepts plea deal with prosecutors. Patricia had fled to Europe in the first week after the scandal. Typical. Ready. Margaret Chun sat next to her, offering a coffee. "They want me to testify against my own father." Ruby took the cup, feeling the warmth spread through her cold hands. "How does that make me any better than them?" "You're doing justice, not revenge." Margaret checked her watch. 10 minutes. The courthouse hallway filled with reporters as Gerald arrived, handcuffed. His Armani suit could no longer hide the broken man inside. His eyes met Ruby's. "You can still change your mind." His voice was almost pleading. "We're family." Ruby stood up, years of hurt weighing on every word. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't manipulate. Family doesn't destroy. "I did everything for you." Gerald tried to step forward, the guards holding him back. Every decision, every move. It was for power. Ruby stood her ground. "Mom tried to warn me in her letters about how you destroyed her when she threatened to expose your fraud. How you used Adam to spy on her." Gerald paled. "How?" "I found her safe. The real one, not the one you emptied." Ruby pulled an envelope from her blazer, including your confession about her car accident. The guards had to hold Gerald back harder. His mask of control finally shattered. "You don't understand. She was going to destroy everything. Our reputation, our legacy." "No, Dad." Ruby tucked the envelope away. "You destroyed everything all by yourself." Adam appeared in the hallway, escorted by his lawyers. He looked smaller without his usual air of superiority. "Ruby, please." He approached, his voice low. "I accept my part in this, but Dad, he won't survive prison. Like Mom didn't survive that sabotaged car?" Ruby felt tears burning. "You had 15 years to do the right thing. 15 years to tell the truth." "Ms. Miller," a court officer called out, "they're ready for your testimony." Ruby straightened her shoulders, adjusting the necklace her mother had worn on the day of the accident. The same one Gerald claimed had disappeared, along with her other belongings. "You know what's ironic?" She looked at her father and brother one last time. "You taught me that money is power. But you forgot to teach me that the truth is even more powerful." The courtroom doors opened. Ruby walked towards the future, leaving behind the weight of 15 years of lies. For the first time she felt truly rich. Rich in courage. Rich in truth. Rich in justice. And no money in the world could buy that. 5 years after the trial, Ruby walked through the cemetery with a bouquet of lilies, her mother's favorite flowers. The morning dew-soaked grass soaked her expensive shoes, a small discomfort she barely noticed. Margaret Chen retired yesterday. Ruby knelt before the headstone, tracing the gold letters of her mother's name. She said our case was the most rewarding of her career. The gentle wind rustled the flowers as Ruby organized her thoughts. So much had changed. Gerald got 25 years. Adam served 3 and is on parole, working in a financial rehabilitation program. She smiled slightly. "I think he finally gets it." A sparrow landed nearby, curious. Patricia was found in Monaco last month. Extradited. Who knew she kept so much evidence? Ruby adjusted her mother's necklace, now a permanent part of her look. "I guess she never imagined she'd need an insurance policy against you guys." The sun was starting to warm the morning as Ruby pulled a newspaper from her bag. "Miller Industries reborn under new leadership." She read the headline. "Ruby Miller transforms empire of fraud into model of ethical governance." Her hands trembled slightly. "I used all the recovered money to create a foundation in your name, Mom. We help women achieve financial independence, escape abusive relationships." She took a deep breath. Every cent they stole is now freeing someone. A car pulled up on the nearby gravel path. Thomas Wright, now her partner in the foundation after serving his own sentence in redemption, waited patiently. "You know, Mom, I understood something in these years." Ruby stood up, wiping away silent tears. "True power doesn't come from money. It comes from choosing to be different, to be better." She touched the headstone one last time. "Adam calls sometimes. He's trying." "Gerald." "Well, he wrote me a letter last month. First one in 5 years. He said he finally understands why you wanted to protect me from him." The sun was now shining fully, making the gold letters glisten. Patricia testified about the accident. Her lawyer got a deal in exchange. "We know the whole truth now." Ruby adjusted a flower in the bouquet. "And the truth really does set you free." Thomas hunked softly. "It was time for the board meeting. I've built something new from the ruins they left, Mom. Something honest. Something good." Ruby smiled through her tears. "And this time the power doesn't come from fear or control. It comes from love. As she walked back to the car, Ruby felt a lightness that no bank account could ever buy. The Miller Empire had fallen, but from the ashes something much more valuable was born. A free woman, a clear conscience, a legacy of change. "Ready?" Thomas asked as she got into the car. Ruby looked one last time at her mother's grave, the sun turning the tears on her face into diamonds. "Yes," she answered. Finally ready. The car pulled away on the gravel path, leaving behind not only a cemetery, but a whole past of pain and manipulation. Ahead, the future shone brighter than any fortune her father had ever dreamed of. Because some treasures, Ruby finally understood, can't be kept in safes.
Hi, you are on the Moving Narratives channel. Subscribe and follow our stories.